This video will explore the reason behind the downfall of Russian Empire during World War I. Russian Empire had been one of the greatest empires in the world. However, due to a series of incidents, the economic, even the system of government, had changed to a totally different one. I will be introducing the engaging history of how the Russian Empire had turned from the strongest empire to a normal country. To start with, people must first understand the system of Russian Empire. Tsar Nicholas II took control of Russian Empire in 1894 November 1st. Before him, the government had already built an agrarian reform that allows them to separate peasants and the working class into groups that are not capable to form a revolution and are not small in number at the same time. After Tsar's government gained control of Russia, he and his government believed they are chosen by God and therefore there are no needs to ask others to help nor to collaborate with any other strong forces such as the Belgies. However, the Belgies level, especially the Zemstvo Circle, who are the most important people in Belgies, plays a key role in revolutions. They are able to provide a sense of creditworthiness and economic background. On the other hand, the revolutionists also refused to work together with the Belgies since they have different ideas and different goals, and that's why protests really resulted into revolutions in Russia and why once revolution starts, they're hard to stop. The Tsarist government also fostered industrialization in Russia and created a new industrial class who work in the factory. They are excluded from the working system because the size of the population is smaller than peasants and they're not as powerful as the nobles. There is discontent for this government and it rapidly increased in a defeat by Japan in 1905. The sound of protest had been so loud that the Tsar government is forced to give up some power by granting a constitution and promise reforms which pleases the citizens. However, after World War I started, the insist on fighting again causes anger. The defeats in many of the wars and the suffering of ordinary people finally causes a revolution that pushes over the Tsar government and built up the first communist government in the world, also known as the Soviet Union. Moving back to the revolution, the empire is chaos under the control of Tsar government. Illiterate Russian workers are forced to evolve into a new system of working that is politically unrepresented and economically exploited, which was mentioned previously, leading them to rebel on this decision later. In addition, World War I at this time period was started. A huge number of peasants are being sent and about 84% of the whole troops are consist of peasants. As a leading consequence to it, food shortage and women labor have played a role in this period of history. As such, at around March in 1917, many riots happened and it ended up being a revolution. To be more specific, the peasants have played an important role throughout the entire revolution. For the peasants that are not going to the war, they are influenced by the small riots, thinking they have chance to acquire better land, so mass torture and murder are common and thus cause a lot of problems for the Tsar government to deal with. In contrast, the situation of peasants in frontline is a more complex matter. They have to experience separation with their family, suffered for not meeting, and it is represented in the letter they wrote. A soldier peasant deeply believe on their village as their only home, which is why they highly value leaves that is to return to their own hometowns. Separation from their hometown is causing them to adapt the new namesake they found as their home, and this is strong because the soldiers are spoiling the place, even the numbers of their troops throughout their letters. In addition, the nature of peasants who labor caused them to consider having war as an obligation to labor, and that when they are fighting in a marshy region, they will be confused by the purpose of fighting. Patriotism is also a part of peasants' nature. Examples of it are represented as the fact that peasants believe they are fighting for the Tsar family and it was sanctioned by the will of God. Lastly, most of the peasants treated the war thoughtlessly, for they described bullets as bees. Also, they're scared by the war. Strong, rumbling, cracking, shaking, and of the earth and lightning are descriptions that soldiers make, which show the fear of the soldier to the war. They're to expect death at every moment, and the feeling of debility had appeared in peasants' hearts, for they believe their rivals are attacking from all directions, making them to suspect the war as inhumane. All of the reasons above is one of the causes of why the Russians are doing so bad at their wars. The same author also analyzed during the revolution, where he wrote about how the Belgians holds dictatorship in military to ensure order. He first thinks that this revolution will be totally unsuccessful because of the violence they use to receive power, and thus lead to the lack of support. Moreover, well-paid Red Guard will always be protecting or supporting the government since they do not desire peace. And at last, it depends fully on its followers, and once their followers change the idea of not overthrowing, then they also need to give up. However, realistic surprised Weber, and he thought that the reason for the revolutionists being successful is because they promised that they will give peasants land commune and distribute private land. Also, Red Guards are distracted by the reward of their support, and they promise utopian communism to the citizens. The citizens believe them and put fully support on them for the promises, which lead to the final success of the revolution and overthrow the whole Tsar government. According to Max Weber, a German politician who actively researched and analyzed about Russian Empire at the time, another reason for the revolution to form is the attitude of Tsar government. The fear of ending World War I is holding them back because the security of money people receive will be gone, and can also prevent more peasants to join the revolution since they have to stay in the trenches. The most important things, however, to avoid revolutions are to hold down the peasants' desire of freedom and attempt money to regulate the government. Although natural peasant plans are suggested, which is to give peasants expropriation of land, cancel debts, and peace, but it was rejected by the property class. In addition, since the Tsar government rejected to work with the Belgians level, they decided to continue collaborating with the revolutionists and provide them with their economic background and creditworthiness. And due to the lack of money and the refusion of the natural peasants plan, the revolution is successfully formed. Planning the revolutionists who leads to 1917 Russian Revolution, he overthrew the Tsarist government and changed the name Russian Empire to Soviet Union. He promised his citizens that he will build a utopian communism country, and the peasants that he will give them a land commune. However, the action that the new government is taking contradicts to their promise. They ask the peasants to do even more harsh work than before, and the broke of promise make the peasants very bad, which increases crisis and social flame, and also causes food shortage that leads to starvation, and 20 to 60 million people die due to it from 1917 to 1991. In addition, religious affiliation is also banned, and people must be proud of their own country. On the other hand, the economics are also dropping after the revolutions, although the official say that 8.8% of average annual growth in economics is gained from 1928 to 1985, but according to research, only 2% are gained in 1970s and 0.9 in future decades. At last, people are forced to live in small houses with an overheated population from 5, 6 to even 7 families to stuck in only one houses. At last, I would like to restate that the downfall of Russian Empire was caused by a series of events, and it also leads to another series of events, and they all ended up having a big influence on our current world. Talking about the change into Soviet Union, it creates the first communist
government, which tells the possibilities of new government form and influence Germany to nearly become a communist country. In current world, it also influenced countries like China that learns the notion of communism and apply it to their own country, leading them to become communist. On the other hand, it also influences the current Russia, changing the whole political system of it, and also leading to many collapse of other features such as their economics. In addition, during the war, women labor are used due to the lack of peasants, which also causes the women to have a higher level in current days. At last, downfall of Russian Empire tell us a lot about the right choices to make throughout different historical events, and the case may be used by many different countries or people for further purpose, and there will always be something for people to learn from this event.